Hi, welcome to Frostbyte FAQ Friday. I am Frostbyte, prepare to be frosted. Question 1. I have a 300 watt head at 4 ohms. I'm looking to get 8 ohm extension cabs. Will the 300 watt be split into 2 cabs at 150 each, or will they each need 300 watts? Generally, the 300 watts are going to be split evenly into the 2 cabinets. So if you have 2 8 ohm cabinets that are rated a certain wattage, in your question it was 200 watts, then yes, the 300 watt head will be nicely split into 2. In short, you don't need each cabinet to match the impedance of your heads or the wattage of your head. You don't need the wattage of the head to match, but you just want the ohms of the cabinet, so the 2 8 ohms, to be okay for the 4 ohms, which they would be. 8 ohms, 2 8 ohm cabinets are going to be set perfectly into 4 ohms, which is why most heads are run at 4 ohms, or at least have a 4 ohm feature. Now this can vary from head to head depending on the model, but generally, and I'm talking about 90% of the time, when you have a head that is rated at a certain amount of watts, which is about how loud it's going to be, that's used in correlation with the amount of ohms. So if you've got a cabinet that takes 4 ohms and you see that it takes a lower amount of wattage than your head does, usually it's okay to pair the two. Just don't turn it up way too loud, or if you do turn it up really loud, start playing until it's clipping, and then you'll hear the clips. You'll hear when it's audibly clipping through the speakers, and then turn it down. So usually that's going to be fine. When you have multiple cabinets, that's remedied even more because the volume, the watts are evenly spread so that you can turn it up and each cabinet will take the load. Carl asks, would it be better to get your main tone from the sound guy or from your own amp? When you're playing live, you're usually going to rely on both. You're going to rely on your amp's tone for your volume, your stage volume, and most of the people in the front row are going to be hearing that. But the sound guy's the guy that's at the PA. He's going to be responsible for part of your tone as well, because that's what's going to be going into the PA system. And they generally have subwoofers that the bass player mostly comes out of. For this, they generally need a dry signal, because with their subwoofers, they only really need your signal. They just need a bass signal, a thumpy bass signal, so that it mixes in with the room. They need everybody to be able to feel the bass as they hear the guitar, as they hear the vocals. So they need people to feel the bass. They don't need your distorted or delayed bass tone or anything with a chorus. They don't need any of your effects. They just need a dry signal so that they can put it in through their mixer and get it to sound good through the PA system. At the amp station where you are, where you're also going to be heard a lot throughout the venue, you're in charge of the overdrive or the EQing or the top end or all that kind of stuff that people are going to hear, and that's also very important. So both are important, both what the PA guy is doing and what you do. Most of the time your head is going to come with a direct out. Any direct box that has a direct out, the purpose of that direct out is to send a dry signal to a mixing board or an interface for recording, but a mixing board for the front of the house, so that they have a dry signal that they can match adequately to their PA system, which they're used to working with, and you can mold your tone adequately to your ears for the room at the time, and then those two blended together is going to be essentially your live sound. When you're professional, when you end up making a lot more money than I ever will, and you're touring, you usually have your own front of the house guy, meaning that guy will take over the controls for the front of the house that is at the venue, or will work with the guys at the venue for your dry signal to sound as good and as consistent every single night. And at the same time, you'll have a guitar tech who will make your amp sound really, really good for the room at the time. So all you have to do is go up and play. But right now, at the level where you're just playing any show that you can, generally you just trust the front of the house that he or she knows what they're doing, and you set your amp to the best that it sounds to you. Chances are most people are hearing your bass amp by itself alone anyway. Okay. Make number 3 all the way to... Cheers, by the way, it's Friday. Texas is dumb asks about cheap gear. There is a place for cheaper gear, or gear that is not of the highest end. And even in the professional situation, even in a situation that you might be in, there's always a place for cheap gear. But when you go into a Guitar Center or when you are online, the featured page or the front area of the store is going to be plastered with all the stuff you don't need, all these things that they're really trying to get rid of, or these new and innovative, you know, Bluetooth amplifier, iPad related stuff, things that you really, really, really need to look past to get to where you need to get to. And they really do this for the same reason that Best Buy tries to sell you their run-of-the-mill laptops or desktops, things that you can get better online, or you can get a better value with, because they need to sell it to you because it's the newest thing and they have to feature it for sale reasons, or they really want to see how many they get back to see if there's anything wrong with it or get a customer basis. Believe it or not, there is value in how many returns you get or how bad an item is to see if that should be weeded out of the market. So a lot of the times you are the guinea pig when it comes to those new products. But inside of those gimmicks, there are some things that are very, very cool for a very low price. And that generally comes with a lot of research, things that people don't want to do. But you kind of have to read the reviews. You kind of have to watch YouTube videos and hear these things for yourself. You have to see what people don't like about them, and you have to put them in the situation that you're going to be in. My advice is actually to look at used items. When you're on the internet, which is a great place to look for equipment, go to places like reverb.com or even eBay, Craigslist, and check out the used section. Musicians are not people that are selling their products for any other reason than they just need the money. They just need to get rid of whatever they're trying to sell, and they're not going to, for lack of a better word, bullshit you about how great it is with mundane and futile features that you'll probably never care about. They will sell it to you for a price that is what they think is reasonable, and they will try to be very honest with it, and they give you all the features, and you are really getting the product that you intended to buy in the first place. Something that is used is not going to sound any worse than something that is not used. It's usually the cosmetics or how long it's going to last that kind of gets you to buy it or not buy it. And so if you can, always look for something used. Always see the price of it used. You'll be surprised. A lot of the stuff that I have here isn't new. I have either traded gear to get it and I found it used online, or I found it used at a store somewhere, or a buddy of mine had it and I bought it off of him. It's something that is overlooked when people go out to buy stuff. They'll kind of see, well, my budget is $200, and then usually, you know, they'll find something in their budget and it'll be between one item and another item, both of them new, but you can end up finding something a lot better for the exact same price if you just go for something used. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Which is the best Star Wars. In the prequel trilogy, I actually have a very, very big soft spot for Revenge of the Sith, but the fight scene in The Phantom Menace is phenomenal and will never be beaten, in my opinion. And I think that Darth Maul is one of the most badass characters that really should be brought back, but will never be brought back. In the old trilogy, I really love Empire Strikes Back. I bleed Empire. I have a tattoo of the Death Star from Return of the Jedi, but that's just because that's a really cool Death Star. The movie that I really like is Empire. It's the basis of everything, so I really, really love that one. As far as the newest trilogy, I think that really need to wait for the other two to come out, so that I'll probably answer that in the Triple F 582 or whatever we're on. Tracking with 9-string guitars and 7-string bass guitars in general. So as the future is rolling around, guitars are adding more and more strings to their instrument. These lower strings take up a lot of the lower frequencies the bass really needs to thrive. So what ends up happening is the bass has to compensate using compression and using distortion and things that don't make the bass generally sound good by itself. For a really good example, look up Born of Osiris bass only, or look up Periphery bass only. The bass by itself does not sound really anything like a bass guitar, because in order to match a lot of those low-tuned songs or those really, really low tuned guitars that the 9 strings and 8 strings get you to, you have to match it in a different way. The lower frequencies end up having to be shared. And since the guitars are already distorted, in order to gear up with those lower frequencies that are already being taken up, you end up having to get as distorted as possible. Retaining the low end is generally done by the dry signal by itself. So if you send out a dry signal into your recording mix, or if you send out a dry signal into the front of the house, that low end or that signal the deepness that comes out of that is what is going to compensate for your bass or your bass noise. But generally for the mix or for the guitars or and actually to play along, you're probably really going to have to distort your instrument as much as possible. So recording with 9 strings, it does present a bit of a challenge, but generally it's the same thing as tuning to a low F sharp or a low G tuning. It's really the same technique. You have to use an adequate amount of distortion, and you also have to have a clean low end so that you just have a little bit more of a bass definition in there. As far as 7-string basses, these are actually really cool because you've got your standard 4-string bass guitar in there, you've got your E, A, D, G, and then you've also got a low B string for that 5-string, and then below that you've got a low F sharp string for your extremely, extremely low tunings, and then above that you've got a high C string. So you've got a 6-string bass, and you've got a 5-string bass, a 4-string bass, and a really low 7th string on there. So virtually you can play any song in any tuning. A couple ways to tune a 7-string bass would be F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, C, or B, E, A, D, G, C, F, depending on if you need more higher notes or if you need more lower notes. Now, if you want to tune to F sharp, of course, you don't need a 7-string bass. You can use a 5-string bass or even a 4-string bass with really thick strings on there, and you can get something usable. But with a 7-string, if you want that string just on there, if you want a low F sharp and you don't ever want to touch the truss rod because you've got all the other tunings just underneath, then you would have that option. I myself, I would love to try a 7-string bass. I would also love to own one, but I would never professionally use one. And the reason being, the neck is far too wide for me. The neck of a 5-string is something that I've gotten used to. Even a 6-string, it starts to get a little bit wide for me around the higher up notes. With the type of music that I play, I really don't ever see a need to go beyond the 5 strings. But if I had a 7-string, it'd be really cool to play a lot of those really djenty things that people are playing today, and then also go, you know, into the standard tuning stuff that I really like as well. Lastly, I wanted to plug in another channel that I have. This is more of a comedy channel or more of a video game channel that I do, and it's called Cyrus Manton. You guys should probably check it out. If you like the stuff that I do on this channel, it's a really informal channel that I do. I have an Indian accent on there a lot of times. I review video games, I play video games, and I go out to the shooting range and do stuff. So it's more of a vlogging channel if you guys want to check it out. It is called Cyrus Manton. I will be linking to it wherever I can. Please tell me what you guys think. Check out that channel, subscribe, check out this channel, check out more FAQs. Leave FAQs, leave as many as you can. I love the questions. I have the best subscribers in the world. I have the best viewers in the world, and I would love to hear what you guys want me to answer next. Thank you very much for watching. I will catch you guys next time.